Dropping the kind of content that even haters can't hate. It's Rep, Rant, Repeat, and it's brought to you by Garage Gym Radio. My name is Jason, or Manu Parks and Gym. And listen, if it's your first time here and you clicked because of my Gluck bait title, you might be disappointed to learn that FU stands for follow up, not whatever else you might think FU could stand for. But before I get into that, I want to start this one with a little community spotlight for my man, Jose, better known as No Way Jose. All right, so for those of you who are listening instead of watching, we are in picture number 1 of 13 that I received from Jose of Jose's gym. Now, this is a basement gym. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to guess you don't have internet access or something like that, because this thing is probably one of the most recognizable gyms in the home gym space. It's one of those that if someone were to argue that it's not even a home gym anymore, that it's now crossed that line into a personal private gym, I would not disagree with that assessment. I mean, it is fully loaded with a lot of isolation machines, mostly from Prime Fitness. He has a few from some other companies, which we'll check out here. I mentioned in the last episode about this particular gym, and you probably can't tell this from the photos, but when I said, the flooring and the wall color and all that stuff, if you're in the space, you might notice that the wall color is the same color as the spec in the flooring. It's the same shade of kind of silvery gray, which I think is a pretty cool element. So let's zoom in here and see what do we have. In the back corner, I can see he's got wall control. For the home gym space, this is a very moderate amount of wall control. Looks like maybe 3 panels or so. A couple of little attachments in there. I see, looks like that's the Rogue. That's the old V-bar. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about Rogue V-bars here in a little bit, especially with their new one that just released. But this is the old one that's like 2 sticks welded together with some balls on the end of it. I didn't particularly love that one. I'm surprised that Jose still has it. He probably doesn't use it any more than I ever did, but we'll see. I see Smart Arm hanging on the wall and some other shorty bench attachments, preacher curl, and also the dumbbell trays. Now that I have the Smart Arm, and I'm sure Jose probably feels this way also, I don't know. I don't know that I need the dumbbell cradles anymore. I don't really use that whole thing. And I haven't touched like a standard curl bar, like an analog curl bar or whatever, since bringing the Smart Arm in. It's just that good. I don't know how many ways I can do a curl with an easy bar type thing, So anyway, I use that pretty much exclusively for my arm days and some cable stuff. But I see he's also got a box squat that looks like it holds his ab mat stuff. And what is that underneath it? I can't quite tell what's under it. Maybe some slam balls or a kettlebell or something. Hard to tell. In the corner there, you see this machine. Jose has this is the hybrid. If you guys can tell this, especially those who are listening from just audio or whatever, but I feel like absolute dog shit right now. But he has the abductor adductor machine, combo machine. That's the word I'm looking for, combo. I'm barely poking out there. That's kind of a flex in a home gym to me, in that, it is one of those kind of exercises that we should all probably do to strengthen our hips and maintain, strong mobility and things like that. Especially as we get older, we know that that's kind of a geriatric thing, right? Is to have weak hips and fall down and break them and stuff like that. So while we should try to strengthen those things up. But we don't. It seems to be a lower priority because the machines take up so much space. There are other ways you can do it with like bands and things like that. I don't know who does, but you can. But these machines are really, really good for that. And in a home gym, I don't know where it falls in the priority of machines. I know Jose actually picked this up pretty early in his transition to what he has today from his previous gym setup, and that had to do a lot with his powerlifting preference in his workout or training method. Just keeping that this machine he felt like would help him reach or exceed some kind of plateau goals that he had. He also has, here's the shorty bench there, and he's got this full set of Watson dumbbells. We learned through this that the Prime dumbbell stand has, I don't know if I can zoom over. Yeah, there we go. We're going to zoom. You can't tell in this photo, and I think he may have remedied it by now, but The handle distance on these dumbbells and the distance between the trays, they have this lip with this kind of rubber, like door edge guard type rubber protection thing on the lip that prevented him from being able to store some of his dumbbells. I think he had to make some adjustments there to do that, to get that to work. But that was kind of a point of frustration. Those are those little surprises that you don't like to find after you spent, 30 grand on a dumbbell setup. But super nice. I mean, I don't think anybody ever disagrees. He did go a step further with his Watson. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but Watson dumbbells, you can order them with different sizes and things like that. Same with Intech, but they're kind of stock. They're like kind of baseline Watson dumbbells have stainless steel heads and raw steel handles. He went a step further and had them make the handles in stainless steel. Also, kind of a buy once, cry once kind of a thing there, because I think he knows himself and knows that, like, if these things, he gets them in there, he spends the money on them and they start to rust, it's going to drive him nuts and he's going to feel like he's wasted his money and all that kind of stuff. In the back there, you can kind of see he's got those Eleiko chrome plates. He bought those. Actually, those may be the Watsons back there. I think those are the Watson. He's got Watson stainless steel plates. And here is the leg extension, leg curl. That he also has the HLP single stack. I think he's actually putting that one up for sale because he has another lat pull down on the way from, well, I say on the way. If it's within 12 months from Prime, that means it's on the way. So he's ordered it within the last 12 months. And I think once that arrives, he'll have all of his lat pull down, low row, and everything that he will do on this single stack covered. So I know he's going to be replacing that with another machine in the relatively near future. Got some Prime rotate attachments over here. Those are some of my favorite. Now I have the rotate, these that he's got up here. It's the rotate, like the single D handle style things. I don't use them as much. I've actually bought those twice. I also have the Kaz handles that I've also bought twice. And I have the little leather strap thing with that nice, like, Mike put together with those. Pretty nice. I don't use them much. I've actually thought about just getting rid of them in some way or another, whether if it's selling them or giving them away in some sort of a promo type thing or something. I don't know. I debate over that a lot, but got a lot going on here in this basement. I think one of the kind of marvels of Jose's home gym is how he gets all this crap down there. I haven't been to his house, but he's shown me pictures of what he has to go through to get these things down, and it does not look like it would be fun. And they all have to come down in pieces, and he does it alone. So that is dedication. Okay, let's move on to another picture here. This area, so what we're looking at here is another angle of his basement gym. Very well put together. Not a lot of space for a lot of people to walk around in there, but he's got enough room to do his lifts. He's got enough room to load his plates. Here is the Prime. We're kind of back in this corner over here where he's got the Prime leg press loaded down with. These are definitely the Eleiko. I can tell by how thick they are. These are the Eleiko chrome plates. He got these from Dave Tate at Elite. So if you ever see any of those photos with them, and those using those big chrome Eleiko plates, that's where those went. So pretty cool little piece of strength history in his gym. He's also got several different little singlets and stuff. He's, like I said, he's really into powerlifting. He used to be Strong Jose, and then he's just No Way Jose. Here are definitely the Watson plates. I can see by the profile on those on his Rogue 6-post Rogue rack. He's got lever arms that I guarantee you still have the price tag on them. I don't think he's ever used those for anything ever, but he's got them. And also the Manta Ray. Now, I've talked with him before, and I did ask him a couple of questions before I did this episode here about, and this was actually came as a suggestion or a recommendation from someone, an avid listener, who said, hey, I was asking him for feedback. Tell me about Community Spotlight. Is it dumb? Is it a waste of time? Do you just hate listening to it? Because I know I try to do this thing where I'm realize that I'm talking to people who are watching on a video, people who are Also listening on, a platform where there's no video whatsoever. And oftentimes, I think most oftentimes people are just kind of letting it play as background noise while they're lifting weights or something like that. And so I just wanted to get a feedback like this. Am I just rambling about somebody's gym stuff, or how do we feel about it and stuff? And the recommendation was to ask some questions beforehand, things like, what are your least favorite pieces of equipment, what are your most favorite pieces of equipment, and things like that. So I did get with Jose and ask a couple of questions. I thought that was good feedback. Probably could have came up with that on my own, but I'm lazy and just not very thoughtful. Um, Now in this picture, I see on the lower corner here, we're looking at, this is the Atlantis Pro, or I don't know if Pro, I added Pro. I just assume Atlantis probably calls everything Pro. This is the Atlantis Hyper. And I know he just recently purchased a shorter, it looks like the mod bar or whatever, from Beyond Power. It's a stainless steel little deadlift bar thing that he can use with this. That's a little shorter profile. Rogue 6-post rack. I know one of the things that he's told me before, he always uses the shorty bench more than he uses the manta ray, mostly just because the manta ray is big and bulky and harder to move around the gym. And he just likes the shorty for what he uses it for. He uses, when I asked about what piece of equipment in your gym do you use the most and which one is the most skipped piece of equipment, he said that the one he uses the absolute most, which I already kind of guessed this, is his combo rack, right? So, like I said, powerlifter, he trains a lot. He trains on what he competes on, and that combo rack is what he said he uses the most. I can see peeking through the back there, he's got the Prime pec/rear delt fly. Now, spoiler alert, I ordered one of these not too long after he did, and mine will be here Tuesday. So I'm pretty excited about that. Today is Sunday, so it'll be here day after tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to putting that in there. Now, that is Prime's, like, of the strength curve stuff, all of their machines have some element of strength curve adjustability and stuff like that. And the pec deck is their number one most popular piece. And it is also the one that really utilizes and takes advantage of or puts to use that strength curve adjustment better than any other machine that they have. It's like the one that makes the absolute most sense. So if you were ever to compare, take all the other things out and whatever, and just had what is the absolute best use case scenario of the adjustable strength curve thing on a machine, it is the pec fly. I don't know why. I'm guessing it has to do with, like, when you get to that squeeze, like if you're thinking about a pec and you're all the way out here, and if you have constant tension all the way throughout, well, you're at your weakest point when you're, spread eagle or whatever. So with that strength curve, you can actually adjust that out so that you're lighter at your weakest point, and you get heavier as you get into that pinch, and whenever you're really using the pec instead of the shoulders and things like that. And then you can adjust the way you're seated on it. It's got, the handles kind of do the thing where they rotate out and things like that. So you get a good, body mechanic element to it also. So a really good, excellent piece of machinery. If you ever bought any single piece of machinery from Prime, that would be the one to get. I see he's got a shoulder raise there in the back. Kind of hard to see from here. That's what these handles are. Shoulder raise in between that, and then the leg extension, leg curl next to the shoulder raise. So we're just, like I said, basically standing on the other side of the gym from where we were before. Move on to next scene. Where are we at? Okay, so again, we're basically in the same area that we were when we first walked in, but we've taken kind of a step back. We were standing in front of the stairwell before. You can see, if you're looking on the screen, you can see in the background, there's the wall control that we talked about earlier with the Watson dumbbells. Now, on the other side of the stairs that we have is his Prime functional trainer, which, by the way, is probably the only piece that I can think of offhand that does not have the strength curve. I think it should. I think it would be it's kind of odd. It is kind of their bread and butter, right? And I think it would be a really good use case scenario for the strength curve also on a functional trainer, but it doesn't have that. Now, he does have the centering device, which I know he uses with the shorty bench, which I think is a cool feature. It's probably, and he and I talked about this in kind of detail when he came to my house a couple months ago, about the difference between the centering device on this and how much easier it is to kind of just tip it up than what I have on the HLP. I don't, it, I don't love it on the HLP, mostly because I have to remove it and stuff like that to store my bench inside. If I could just leave it as is, it might not be that bad, but I do still have a couple of valid complaints about adjusting it in and out and things like that, like just things that they could have done differently. But here we get another better shot of these Eleiko plates. Like I said, these came from Elite FTS. Pretty cool. Funny story about that is that I had to explain to him who Dave Tate and Mountain Dog and those guys were. He might have been just, pretending to be cool or something like that, but he legitimately convinced me that he was like, I don't know, it's just a good deal on a lot of these plates, and I'd love to have them because, the lip on them makes them easier to carry. They're kind of like a grip and things like that. But tucked away in the back here with some of those plates on it is the goated chest supported row machine from Prime. Now, again, I have one of these also on the way. It's supposed to be here around February at the same time as a pendulum, which he also ordered about the same time that I did, um, among probably 7 other machines that he probably has on the way. But it is a great machine. He and I worked together to kind of remedy one of the issues that it has, where the linkages and stuff like that create this really, really difficult spot at the very beginning. But once you get past that, you get a nice, smooth and steady increase, or depending on where you have the weight or whatever, but steady pull. But there is this kind of feels like a magnet sticking point. But we got together and we took some measurements and stuff and found some parts to be able to make something that's temporary enough to just stick it on there like a magnet, with a big rubber bumper thing that creates enough space, about 2 inches or so, to offset that so that you don't have to deal with that in the very, very beginning of your movement. So pretty cool there. See, he's also got the upgraded chest pad, which I think might have been, from my understanding, there is another user in the home gym community or home gym space or whatever who had recommended that. They brought it into production, and I think that's where that came from, was a suggestion from a home gym user. Chest press. Now, this is kind of like a little known secret. Now, before I say this, though, I will also preface it with, you shouldn't do this. Don't do this. Prime just recently teased they are in the works on creating a chest press that, the plate loaded chest press has the same frame on the back side of it for the incline and the flat bench. And so what they've done now, and they used to do this when it was Strive, they had one that had an adjustable. I don't know what the problem was with it. There must have been some sort of an issue. But now they have where they're making a new bench that is adjustable, right? So you can buy one machine and have both a flat and incline and everything in between. So pretty cool. You can also, I saw in the comments of their teaser about that they will sell the bench separately. So if you already have one of these, you can just buy a new bench. If you've got 2 of these, you can buy 2 new benches or whatever and convert yours to the adjustable incline flat bench chest press. So that's also one of those machines, man. If I had room for it, I would really struggle with whether or not I would put in a chest press or the Prime lateral raise, because I love those things so much. I talk about episode of this podcast, but the chest press is something that I feel like I could really get behind, especially knowing that they're going to have that upgrade ability in the future with the adjustable incline decline. Otherwise, if I had to pick just one, I personally would go with the incline one. But what Jose did was he had them send him 1 frame and then 2 benches. So he just wheels up. We got together on that also and came up with like a quick knob system that he can remove the bench with some knobs, a couple of hand knobs, and just switch them out between incline and flat on that. So pretty cool to be able to do that. And he had to sign a bunch of waivers and stuff like that in case their Prime is very cautious about injuries in the gym. So that's the reason, or one of the reasons why they've struggled so much with releasing the standing stuff for the shorty bench. They're going to release like a wall mounted strap system or something like that with it, because they are concerned about people injuring themselves and stuff. That same thing with their bright green knobs and things like that. It's a safety concern thing with moving parts. But this is just a better shot of where we were earlier. Can confirm now those are the Eleiko plates that are in the background. They're not the Watsons. Those are the Eleikos on, looks like a rogue tree, maybe. I know Jose probably spent more time sucking the fun out of this weight tree thing than anybody else probably would have. So interesting, because I know he went back and forth with like maybe Oak Club. He looked at everywhere. I mean, we were looking at like Eleiko, we were looking at everywhere, and it looks like he maybe, I don't remember. Did you land on Rogue, dude? All right. So earlier I talked about how I'd asked him some questions about his most used piece. I asked him about what is the one piece of equipment that you skip the most, the one that you're like, I don't really like that or whatever. And here it is. It's this hip thrust pad. It's technically from AbMat, but this is the Rogue branded hip thrust pad. He said he doesn't really do that exercise and he's never used that pad. So, and I can confirm that is a kettlebell and some slam balls underneath the squat box. And like I said, better shot. That's a huge piece of equipment. Adductor, abductor machine. That is a lot of space there. Really cool. I would like to have something like that. I just don't know how to make it work. Like I said, I don't know how many more machines I would put in before I got to the one where I was like, okay, I'm ready for that. See, what else do we have here? Okay, here's a better shot of, we talked about the shoulder press. This is the other side of the 6-post Rogue rack. You can see very prominently there on display is his Mutant Metals UDA dip attachment. I still go back and forth with these. I keep thinking out. I've had like 3 dip attachments and sold them because I don't do dips. I don't know what it is about me, but they hurt. They hurt my wrists. They hurt my shoulders. They hurt my elbows, my forearms, like everything except for the muscles hurts. Like my bones hurt when I do those. And I don't even have to add weight to it for that to happen. So I don't do a lot of them. I end up just thinking, I feel like I can get more out of my muscles using something else, anything else, because here I'm just trying to like pretend like it doesn't hurt my joints to do this. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just not made for dips or something. I don't know. And here we go. This reminds me here, he's got 2. Well, I'm sorry. He's got 1 Rogue heavy mug with the little artillery shell topper. And then he's got 1 Eleiko heavy mug. Eleiko was the one that kind of set that whole wildfire off. And I think they still don't understand how that happened, but this guy's got 2 of them because of course he does. And yeah, so cool. See, what else do we have in here? In the foreground, you can see very faintly, and we'll probably get another shot of this in a minute, but this is the combo rack that I was talking about earlier. Now, this is an Eleiko. This was used at the Worlds. It was white at the time, and he took it all apart and took it down to a local powder coater and had it refinished in black to match the rest of his gym. Same thing with this Eleiko chalk holder thing. Pretty cool. And then here you can see the 2 benches that I talked about earlier, right? So he's got the flat bench on there. Like I said, there's some hand knobs. This is the kind of in the mid ground there. This is that prime chest press that we were looking at the side of earlier. And he just pops that bench off and moves this incline one over and does them that way. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if whenever that singular bench comes out, Jose will do one of probably 3 things. He'll either buy a whole new unit with that, or he'll buy, and sell this one, or he'll buy another. I don't know what he's going to do, but he'll end up with that singular bench, because I think that we all agree, if you don't have to do setup, you won't, right? And so I think this guy, by that point, he will have gotten over whatever he's paid for these things, and he'll figure out a way to get whatever makes the most sense to get rid of them and replace it with a singular unit, so he doesn't have to do any kind of setup. Jose's a big barbell guy. He goes back and forth with collecting barbells and getting rid of barbells and things like that. I see he's got several on the wall over here, and probably a bunch of them that I've never actually had my hands on because they're some Well, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what he's got over there. Some barbells, probably a Eleiko, probably Usaka or whatever that, however you pronounce that. Like I said, a bunch of that most of us have probably never even heard of. And they're probably all very nice barbells at that. Another shot here of the Atlantis. This is where I was talking about. So, oh, hold on. Let me get back in there. Sorry about that. So here's his Eleiko competition set again from the Worlds. Same thing with it. All the stuff he had redone. There's what looks like the first gin oak club basketball hoop thing. Remember when they did the second one that came out and everybody was just pissed? Now they have a third one that looks pretty sweet again. It's like they took the feedback from the second one and were like, okay, let's do a round 3 and make it kind of neat again. But that second one was jank, man. It looked like something from like, I don't know, Temu or Amazon or something. And it had like the script on it that kind of looked like Space Jam or something. I don't know. It was weird. All right, so here's a good shot of the Atlantis. He used to have we both had that Rogue oblique flexor. And that thing, I don't know if it's because it's not intended to be a 45-degree hyper or what, but it is it's not as great as some. And I've never used this Atlantis, but just looking at it, it looks intense. It looks like a really good option for doing these. And it's got this little pulley system on it that you can use a bar with. And that's what he bought that Beyond Power bar for. So very cool. Well, here's the Lonely Seal Row bench. This is one of those, he's got like a little offshoot office area in his basement. And it's just small enough to where you can't really fit much in it. It's got this lonely little seal row in it. And I think his plan is to get rid of this once. I don't even know which machine he has on the way, but there's going to be some machine that comes in and ultimately replaces this. But for now, this is what I expected whenever I asked him what is the most skipped piece of equipment. I kind of expected him to say the seal row, but he says he still uses it. I think it's cool. This is one of those things I used to really, really want one of these, but I didn't have space for it. And it's one that you can easily adapt if you have like a 4-post rack or something like that. You can easily make some sort of a makeshift seal row thing. But the important distinction about seal rows versus like a chest supported row, even if you're lying flat and things like that, is that you really want to take your legs out of the equation altogether. It is one of the most humbling exercises, especially if you're like a strong guy or whatever, and you've got a huge bench press. This is like the exact opposite, right? So it's really a good way to keep that balance and build a back and things like that. But it's a lightweight, higher rep type thing. I mean, if you load it down too much and you just start slinging it, your odds are you're probably not doing the exercise properly or something. You really should look up, if you have never done one, or if you just aren't sure, you should look up some of those examples of how to do it and do it properly. It is a very humbling, like I said, humbling exercise. And even just doing a plate on there is a challenge for most. Here we go to another shot. This is like a side view. You can see of the chest press and barbells TV. This is where he watches Rep Rant Repeat with the kids so they can learn F words. Here's another rack or another shot of the combo rack that I described earlier. This is a better shot of it. And like I said, this is what he said is his most used piece. There's a whole bunch more barbells. Now these I can see, this is probably the nicer barbell wall than the other one. Here are the Watson dumbbells along with the Shorty bench. Very nice dumbbell set. Probably the nicest dumbbell set in a home gym that I can think of. That's not something, I mean, I would still have these over like your round heads or something like that, but very, very nice, man. And then the infamous leg extension, leg curl combo unit from Prime Fitness. Of course, everybody knows this thing has the wobbly back pad, but there are many ways to go around that. I love that piece of equipment. You'll never convince me that I should have bought anything else. And then here's a better shot again of, oh, sorry, I'm trying to zoom in and I'm closing out, of the pec deck rear fly from Prime. Again, their number one most sought after piece. All right. So that is Jose's gym. Jose, Thank you for sharing the pictures. It's an incredible gym. I don't think there's anybody out there that, it's funny with Jose and Jose's gym and stuff. Like it used to be, it's always been nice for as long as I can remember, even whenever he had like the Rogue Monster Light and a few other things in there or whatever. It was always this thing where Jose would post pictures of his gym and things like that. And he would get all this shit from people like haters, right? Haters will come in. If you have nice equipment, people will come in and they'll say things like, "Hey, you don't lift," or that for whatever reason, they think you have to be able to lift like Ronnie Coleman or something like that in order to justify having a nice home gym. I don't see that as much. He'll probably correct me and tell me he still gets those kind of comments and stuff, but he really has done a thing over the years where he's gone from this guy who just people will just dog on him for having nice things to people are really do respect, like, man, he's got a really great gym and he's also really strong. He obviously, he's been posting just religiously pictures of himself lifting, preparing for competitions, his results and things like that. Sometimes he's very proud of himself. Sometimes he feels like he could have done better and things like that. He's just a real guy, right? And I think that people over the course of the last few years, I think I've seen a shift in the reactions to Jose's uh, nice home gym and things like that. Overall, I mean, there are always going to be some who are going to, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but this is how I see it. It happens when you have really, really nice shit. You post pictures of it and you get people that want to come in and just dog on you and bring you down. It's like that story of like the crabs in a bucket, right? Like when one crab starts to try to get out, all the other crabs do everything they can to pull them down. And that's the same kind of concept that happens here. I don't ever see it the other way around, right? I've never seen Jose or anybody who has a really, really nice gym or nice gym equipment and stuff. I've never seen them come in and just shit talk people for having, less nice gym equipment. I don't know why that is, but that is how it seems to go. So anyway, moving on, I wanted to kind of follow up on the Vulcan versus Gluck stuff, not because I want to rehash all of it or anything like that, but because after that last episode, I kind of realized that I didn't do a very good job of representing both sides or of being objective or even doing all my homework before forming and sharing my opinion on this platform. So, to be honest, I kind of came at it from a perspective like, I don't know, I never really promised to be objective or even intelligent in every opinion I form. I mean, it's rep, rant, repeat, guys. And I did preface all of my opinion with all the things that basically scream this guy is kind of my bro. I mean, I think I even said I've stood face to face and looked him in his eyes and they're green. So yeah, I don't know. I will say, and I'll get to the point, I promise, but I think it's interesting that in all the videos, the podcasts and the posts on the subject, even those who have superior knowledge, experience, and who have done all their due diligence, well, we all seem to come to the same conclusion. So I don't know. I want to apologize for not really feeling like I needed more info on this particular topic before I formed and shared my opinion, but I do want to thank those who sort of called me out, so to speak, whether in the comment section or even those in the side chats that I have with several listeners. Felt like I don't know, I just felt like I was being held sort of accountable. And it was done in such a fair and constructive way that it's had me thinking a lot lately, right? I've been thinking about the accountability. I've been thinking about the home gym community as a whole, about social media personalities, the power of influence, and not just equipment reviewers, but just, I don't know, product reviewers in general. And kind of the blurry lines between careful criticism and just all out scorched earth, borderline hate speech. Okay. So Vulcan v. Gluck, it raises a lot of really interesting questions about accountability and responsibility. And that goes for everyone, right? Like people with a social media presence, like reviewers, affiliates, and even self-proclaimed podcasters. It goes for equipment manufacturers and resellers too. And it even applies to the community of consumers as well. I mean, everybody has a responsibility in this thing. And one thing that's really clear from this situation is that we don't have a standardized way of dealing with any of this stuff. So, how do we want accountability to work in the home gym world? Well, that's one question I have, and maybe that's one for another day. But what are the responsibilities of those three that I mentioned earlier, the product reviewer, the equipment company, and the community that they both stand to serve? What do reviewers owe their audience? Well, we talk all the time about honesty and transparency and calling it like it is, but where is the line between a critical review and a barrage of damaging statements? The community expectation has always been to tell the truth, right? Don't sugarcoat it. Help the buyers, right? I've said this before, your loyalty belongs to those who use your code, not the one who issues it. But of course, legal systems and evidently some companies don't care about the community expectation. They care about words and the possible intent behind them. So that forces reviewers or podcasters even to ask questions like, where is the line and am I crossing it? Am I reviewing this product fairly, or am I literally just shitting all over it because, well, it sucks and I'm kind of frustrated with this back and forth I've done over and over the last 70 painstaking emails with the company, right? Stuff like that. So look, negative reviews are necessary, but they should be responsible and also funny. I mean, if you can't make fun of the talus with those sloppy ass cables and the weird low row from the floor, then what are we even doing here? Okay, so if reviewers owe clarity and if we're going to expect them to take the high road when what they really want to say is, this is the biggest pile of shit I've ever used, then companies owe accountability, right? Reviewers aren't just random voices on the internet. In the home gym space, these guys are the front line of consumer information. They're basically the Consumer Reports of home gym equipment. So companies have responsibilities too. Build good products, fix problems quickly, stand behind your product, don't retaliate against criticism, right? Don't use legal action to silence negative feedback. I mean, unless there's actual provable harm. I think this case just shows how important it is for companies to have confidence in their products and their customer service. Because when you get a bad review, no matter how scathing it may seem, the answer can't just be legal action. So, what responsibilities does the community have in this? Well, we share this space, so we have a shared responsibility in holding reviewers and manufacturers accountable for the things they say and do. The way we respond to reviews and drama directly influences what reviewers feel safe saying and what companies feel pressured to do. And we do that through action. So when you like what a reviewer says and does, you support them. You like, you share, you comment, and you use their fucking code. If you don't like it, then don't watch it. And the same for the products, right? Buy what you like, don't support what you don't like. And as much as I hate when the community goes full mob mentality, bloodthirsty cyber bully on whoever is on the bottom of the shit pile this week, seriously, I would love to believe that anything I could ever say or do would turn at least one person away from that activity, but I'm a realist and I could never outlogic a witty meme. So for the love of God, if you're going to bring the torches, could you at least make sure they're aiming at the right fucking target so some Australian Vulcan doppelganger doesn't wind up on Facebook full of good old fashioned fucking American hatred? Okay, that was our heavy set. Thanks for sticking that out with me. It's been on my mind and I needed to get it out. Now I'll get back to impromptu dick jokes and anal references like this one, for example. If the original analog is analogous to being an anal OG, then would it be fair to say that analogus is analogous to cunnilingus, but for assholes? So the whole Gluck situation is messy, it's uncomfortable, and it's probably not the last time we'll see something like it. It's just not about Gluck and Vulcan. It's really, this is the moment for the entire home gym ecosystem to kind of figure out what it wants to be. All right. While I'm on the topic of follow-ups and ecosystems, last episode, I kind of went on a rant about the Bulletproof 360 handles, and I learned I wasn't alone in my feelings about the frustration with the change in design and lack of communication surrounding that. I don't think I've ever been so indecisive over a piece of gym equipment either, but alas, I've decided I'm just going to keep them. Not because I love them or that I think they're great. In all honesty, I just got really tired of thinking about it. And I got tired of looking at the box on the floor, and even the thought of boxing them up and dragging them to the post office for whatever reason just felt exhausting. So I said, fuck it, I'll keep them, whatever. I did see that Larry's planning to release some sort of something that is supposed to allow adjustability similar to what was originally advertised. Although the render looked like an afterthought, because it is, and it looks like it's probably going to add some weight to an already heavy set of handles, and it doesn't look as quick and simple as a pop pen. But regardless, I'll give it a shot. I'll stay calloused if I have to and bitter, but I'll shut up and lift because this is the decision that I've made. In their favor, though, they do make pressing movements more comfortable because, lifting weights should be comfortable, I guess. Enough about that. Let's talk about home gym customers for a minute. myself included, but has anyone ever thought about how high maintenance we can be sometimes? Like I said, I'm guilty of it too, so don't be offended. But with the rise of machines and purchasing gym equipment from commercial companies, kind of comes an understanding that home gym customers are different. We just have different expectations, and commercial equipment manufacturers and resellers are different from your home gym equipment companies. They are. I don't know why, but it's true. And I see this come up from time to time when someone will post a bit of a rant in the home gym community about an interaction they had with a commercial equipment company or even some small gym equipment manufacturers. Now, a couple of examples. Prime is one of them. Now, I've seen this. I've actually had this conversation with the guys from Prime. It's funny, right? And it doesn't matter that none of these companies care about how much money you spend or didn't spend or something. When they receive an inquiry on their customer service end, whatever that looks like over there, they're not prioritizing these requests based on how much money you've spent. And odds are, whenever it's like a commercial client of theirs, don't interact with them over and over again to where it's like every time it's, oh, there's Bill from Gold's Gym or whatever. You know what I mean? It's not quite. I mean, they might have a lot of interaction with them as they go through the sales process, but after it's all said and done, when it's whatever, they don't just keep tabs on these people, right? So when they receive your inquiry, it's just another inquiry kind of a thing, right? But what's funny and a difference about like your commercial client versus your home gym client, and this is a specific example, I know, but they'll say, here's this guy who on one transaction, I'll close a deal that's like 750 grand, right? This guy just 750 grand for a whole new outfit for multiple um, facilities to outfit in Prime stuff. It's like, man, this is, and when it came to color, what color do you want? And he's, let's go with black, or, we'll just go with green, whatever, right? It's kind of a flippant, just whatever. And then you get your home gymmer who's about to spend $600 on a bench, and they call and they want like samples of the color options. They want to see if they have, where can I go and see it? So I want to make sure that it matches the other green that's in my gym and things like that, and they're like, man, this is different, for my $700 bench. And it's not about the price or anything. That is just the difference in the mindset of some of the home gym clients, right? Now, we also have this idea too, where we're like, and this is another kind of specific example that came up recently with Sorinex, right? They were upset. They had ordered something. It had an estimated time, about 8 weeks or so, something like that. And on the 8th week, it hadn't shipped yet. They had kind of run out of patience. They sent multiple inquiries. They got no response with a tracking number or anything like that. And they want to know, they come to the Facebook community to talk about it, right? Like, what is this? Am I being crazy? Well, that's where I'm saying we're a little bit high maintenance because so Sorinex's bread and butter is not the home gym. They will sell to the home gym client, but you're probably not the most profitable. If you're taking multiple inquiries of somebody's time to try to get a tracking number on something, right? And then going to a Facebook community to talk about it and things like that, those are all elements of maybe what could be perceived as a high maintenance, right? I just don't see, like Sorinex, for example, I think they're probably top client are going to be like high school and college facilities. They outfit those things. I don't see college facilities leaving multiple inquiries at 8 weeks in and then taking to a Facebook group to talk about not receiving a response and things like that. Now, as a customer, and again, the argument is always like, well, I spent $5,000 with them. And I'm telling you, none of these companies care about how much you spent. And it's not about that, but they're not triaging their inquiries based on how much you spend. But if they were, you got to understand that your $5,000 is a drop in the bucket to what their other clients are spending, right? Everybody that buys that machine you bought spent $5,000 on it. Everybody did. And your $5,000 means a lot to you. It doesn't mean as much to other people, and especially not your customer service guy, whatever. Now, I do think regardless if you're a home gymmer or commercial gymmer or a college facility or whatever, as a customer, you deserve an appropriate response when, within an appropriate amount of time when you do have an inquiry. Understanding that estimates are just that. They're just estimated timeframes. They're not guarantees or whatever. And sometimes things take longer and sometimes they get done faster. They just average out what they believe it might be, and they throw a date at you. It's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and the hostess tells you it's going to be 30 minutes. Well, how do they know how long it's going to be before the next table opens up? I don't know. They just guess, right? Sometimes. And it's an educated guess, but whatever. I digress. Another kind of example of some home gym high maintenance is this. Another very specific example, something that came up. Somebody had posted in the Facebook group, and man, if you guys are listening here, I'll tell you to your face that was a little high maintenance, right? That was a little bit extra, okay? But somebody had reached out to Bridge Built, right? Bridge Built, call them Bridge Built, call them Bridge Burnt, whatever you want to call them. It doesn't really matter. But they had reached out to them about, they said that they wanted a custom dumbbell rack. Well, Bridge Built says, I don't make those. And he says, well, I really want you to make me one. And basically they kind of go back and forth. And the guy's expressing a little bit of frustration, and he does it in a way of like, tell me I'm crazy. Is this the normal, the standard or whatever? He had asked about a different type of metal, and Bridge Build's like, nope, not using that kind of metal. This is what I can build. And ultimately he says, if you want me to build this, I'm going to have to do a CAD and all that stuff. It's going to be $1,000. I don't know any more information about what happens with $1,000. Does it go toward the price of it? Does it whatever? But you got to understand, you're asking this guy, this small business guy who doesn't just sit around and build AutoCADs of products that he does not make, right? You're asking him to use tools, and you're asking him to use knowledge and skills and understanding that he has to be able to build something that he does, to take time away from things that he does build to do something that he doesn't, just to give you an idea of what it might cost for something that you may or may not buy. All that stuff takes time, and all that stuff takes money, and they value their time and their money and things like that. So yeah, when somebody comes back at you with a price that you don't like on their services, just don't do it. You don't have to do it. Right. But I don't know. It just seems like an odd thing to come onto a community Facebook page and kind of open up the doors for people to drag this company even further for something that maybe they don't have a full understanding of. Right. Enough of that. I really do. I feel so ranty today. All right, so let's do a quick product spotlight, right? Maybe let's move on to something else here. Quick product spotlight. I'm going to share my screen. All right, so for those who are listening, we're taking a look now at the Rogue rotating V-grip cable attachment. Now, this was recently released, and it's kind of shocked people because the price of it comes in at $95. Now, something I think is really cool about this one is that it also offers a V-grip cable attachment 70-degree kit. So you can change it. It comes standard at 90 degrees. So the handles are at a 90, and you can switch out the little brackets on it that the handle's attached to and make it more of a 70 degree. So you get a slightly closer at your pinky's end of the meat of your hand will be slightly closer together. Maybe sort of for some changes the orientation of it in a way that you can feel your triceps differently or something like that. So pretty cool. Rogue has entered the V-grip, rotating V-grip attachment space. Now, this is one of those things that on paper, like I said, it's $95, which makes it easily the best option whenever it comes to value and quality. So if you guys remember a few weeks ago, I did sort of a comparison of the available revolving V-grips on the market. Ultimately, we concluded that at the time anyway, the soon to be released Force 6 was likely the nicest kind of off the shelf option available. Now, at the time, I also was under the impression it was going to be about 150, turned out to be more like 230 or 250, something like that. So we came back and said, I don't know about that. That's up to you. But anyway, now it's no secret that Rogue has what's known as economy of scale, right? So that's when a business has the advantage of producing so many products that it can kind of spread the cost of production super thin, and they're able to sell the same or similar items at a lower price. So this is normal in a free market, and it's where some consumers start to struggle with things like business morality, because what it does is it can effectively force smaller companies out or create barriers of entry that essentially make it impossible for others to compete. Now, when you compound that with high tariffs on imports, in time, you'll run the risk of monopolistic capitalism. So it's something that it's not going away, and it's not new. It's just an observation, right? So when I was a kid, for example, there was a time when people were really boycotting Walmart because of their economy of scale. What started as like one man's vision to offer discounted pricing on everyday items in rural, that's a word I can't say. Everyday items in rural small towns would later become this industry giant who stood to stamp out small family owned businesses in the very communities they once stood to serve. I guess it's kind of a catch 22, but I digress. Now, back to the V grip. Personally, I think the Rogue V grip looks great. I love that Rogue is updating all their cable attachments, like that one that we looked at earlier that Jose had, right? Even if the new designs look like they took a page from Cleva's AutoCAD, I like how cohesive it all looks. I like when you look at the entire catalog, I'm just glad to see that Rogue seems to be moving past their typical, weld two heavy sticks together design and just onto something that looks a little bit more aesthetic. I mean, even before this, I had one in the cart. Even though I know that I shouldn't, I know I don't need it. I keep going back and forth with like, man, do I? Here's what stopped me so far. It's not all of the emotional, morality stuff that I mentioned earlier. It really has more to do with like, do I get the raw aluminum handles? Do I get the black handles? Or do I go with daddy lime green to match the other little bit of lime green that I have in there? I think if I were buying these today, and I'm not saying I won't buy them today, but if I did, it would probably be, I'd grab that 70-degree kit and I'd probably get the lime green just because I like a little lime green. Now, it won't be the right lime green, but I do like a little lime green. So let's take a look at one more while we're looking at product spotlight. One more that has come up since the last episode when we did these V-grip things. I want to talk about this guy, which maybe you've seen, maybe not, but it is from Euclipse. This is their contribution to the V-bar. Now, what makes this one slightly different from the others, and this is an element that if you guys, I don't know if you guys remember if anybody ever listens to episodes or not, but in the one where we did kind of the spotlight before, I talked about one that I have from American Barbell that I have modified. So mine does the rotation, and then it also has handles. I slipped some knurled grips over the top of the stock grips, and it gives them 360 revolving handle or whatever, this way. So it rotates, revolves, and then also the grips spin freely. Not the best, but they do. So what separates this one from the others, it doesn't revolve at the attachment point, but the grips will spin on this one. So kind of cool. 32 millimeter diameter. It uses stainless steel grips. Now this one does what Rogue would call the 90-degree. So it doesn't have the 70, but it's fixed at a 90. And then you've got, I said, the freely rotating handles. So pretty cool. I think it's neat that we have all these different options now for V-grips. For very, very long time, we didn't have all these, right? For a very, very long time, the nicest one that you could get was from American Barbell, to my knowledge anyway. And so I think it's pretty cool, man. Lots of options. I'm not sleeping on that Rogue. I'm not suggesting that I'm, done with it either. So, all right, guys, I think that's all I have for today. Sorry. I hope I didn't just leave on a big, I don't feel that great. And I think it's coming out in my tone here, but thanks for listening. Remember to like, share, follow, comment, subscribe, download, whatever you do on whichever platform you're using. It's how we know you're listening. It's how we measure our self-worth. So thanks. See you next time.